There is increased, I think, recognition or appreciation that racism can be systemic, not just the basis of individual prejudice of people. So that's gone up, I think, across all groups.
In 2019, the Canadian Race Relations Foundation surveyed Canadians to see how they felt about racial relations in Canada. 2 years later, the Crown Corporation surveyed Canadians again and found while there was increased awareness of racism and discrimination, there was also increased pessimism that the problem might be fixed.
I think what would be a fair way to characterize it would be that and I will call it maybe recognition or acknowledgement of racism, excuse me, in Canada increased across all groups, across all racial groups from 2019 to 2021.
The survey found the percentage of Canadians who felt race relations were generally good went down from 71% in 2019 to 64% this year. The decline was biggest among Black Canadians, falling from 72% to 49%, and just 28% of those polled felt race relations have improved. Some of the starkest differences come from those under 35, with that cohort most likely to be aware of and sensitive to discrimination.
People who are, for instance, second-generation Canadians who are racialized may be looking at the promise of what Canada was supposed to provide for them and their family, and then they look at the reality, and they are sort of less likely to accept that gap.
They may say, well, this is part of life, right? They may not see them as critical because they have put up with it all their time in Canada. For younger generations and second generations and those who may be more fluent in English or English is their first language, they are going to say, well, no, why should I put up with this?
Amy Goh of the Chinese-Canadian Council for Social Justice says many of the findings are no surprise. Throughout the pandemic, Asian and Chinese-Canadian groups have tracked increasing discrimination against Asian people. Coupled with that, Goh says she's seen growing awareness of anti-Asian discrimination, which the survey seems to back up. The number of respondents who say discrimination against Chinese people remains a problem more than doubled from 2019.
In order to combat racism, particular systemic nature, combat anti-Asian, anti-Black, or anti-Indigenous racism, you need to have that awareness.
I just think that there's greater awareness. It's always been bad. We seem to have this myth in Canada because we compare ourselves to the US. Oh man, it's really bad in the US. So we're lucky to be living in Canada. When the reality is that our racism is just as bad as it is in the US, but it's more of a quiet racism.
In Ottawa, Shaoli Lee, City News.